Hi, good morning. This is Dr. Gombele from drg.com, and I'm welcoming you to another series of our health presentation on diabetes mellitus. If you can recall, in my previous presentation, I indicated to you that the Caribbean, the beautiful islands within the Caribbean communities, have become the world capital of amputations. And the expert mentioned three countries that are leading: Jamaica, Trinidad, and Barbados. And we had decided now to look into details. Why is that the beautiful islands of the Caribbean have become the world capital of amputations? And we are going to talk today about the country of Belize. But before I start, I would like to thank you very much for your subscriptions, for your viewership. We have reached over 1,000 subscriptions, but we still need to convert more viewers on subscribers. So, like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that when I upload my very next videos, you can be notified. We start with Belize because Belize is the most affected country in the Caribbean. Not only the Caribbean, but in the Central American community as well, but also in the whole continent of America. When we talk about the continent of America, we talk from Canada to Argentina. So we decided to talk about Belize, but when you hear about Belize, I'm not sure what comes in your mind. Belize is a beautiful place to be. I have been there in numerous occasions. If you want to see what has remained of the beauty of nature, untouched, unspoiled, go to Belize. Belize, it's a relatively small country located between Guatemala and Mexico. In fact, it shares border with Mexico in northwest, and it shares the border with Guatemala in west and south. And then now from southeast, you have the Gulf of Mexico, the massive amount of water in the Gulf of Mexico. And the eastern region of Belize is nothing than the Caribbean Sea. Now, we are talking about Belize. I think it makes sense to try to know what is the meaning of the name Belize. We have reviewed several theories that attempt to define the word Belize or to give a meaning to the word Belize. But we came to only one that fits the historical background, the geographical background of the country. The first meaning of the country Belize, it says that it originates from two Mayan words. One is Bel, and the other one is Itzal, Itzal, meaning route to Itzal, or your way to Itzal. What is Itzal? Itzal is a mysterious god that the Mayan worshipped, and that god lived in the sea. The second meaning, it says that again, it comes from a Mayan name by Belix, Balix, meaning muddy watered. And the third says that the name Belize originates from another Mayan name meaning Belikin, another Mayan name Belikin, meaning the land that faces the sea. And we said earlier that the eastern region of the country of Belize faces the Caribbean Sea. Belize was before known as the British Honduras. Not until in 1961 it became Belize, and of course in 1981 it got its political independence from the British. I say political because the Queen Elizabeth is still the head of the state in Belize. In fact, her faces appears in most of the bills in the country of Belize. The superficie of Belize, how vast, how big Belize is just 22,966 square kilometers. Converted into mile, we are going to have something like 8,000 mile and 867 square miles. The population of the country of Belize is roughly 430,000, and this is for the census made, I think, in 2018. The capital of Belize is Belmopan, and Belmopan comes from two Belizean rivers. The first is Belize River, which is the longest one in the country. I think it's like 290 kilometers. And then the other one is Mopan. So they coined the beginning of the first river, Belize, to Mopan, and they made it as Belmopan, the capital of Belize. And Mopan is another river that empties into the Great and the Belizean River. Belize, as a small country, it is small population relatively, but they have a lot of ethnic groups, and that is reflected in the amount of languages spoken within the country. The English has always been the official language of Belize. When I mean official, is taught in schools, the news, is the way Belize communicate with the other countries on the globe. You also have Spanish is widely spoken in Belize. Belize is in Central America, and most of the Central American countries are Spanish speakers, right? And Belize also, in Belize also Spanish is spoken. Belizean Creole, which kind of English with some African languages, and the Mayan, which is spoken by the Mayan, right? And then German, there's a good representation of German in Belize, the Mennonite, and also Garifuna, it is spoken in Belize by the Garinagu. We are not here to study history, but as you can see, the Garinagu, the German, the Mayan, all these have the reason of being in Belize. Now, Belize is like a small United Nation, a country of relatively 430,000 population. It is represented by 7 ethnic groups. We have the Mestizos. The Mestizos are a product of the Europeans and the native Belizeans. So the native, or the Maya and other tribe, mixed with the European, they produce the Creole. They make 52% of the Belizean population. The Creole, which are the African descent who went to Belize to work, they make 25.9% of the population of Belize, and the Mayans make 11.3% of the population of Belize, and the Garinagu make 6.1% of the population of Belize, and the East Indians, who also went to Belize to work, make 3.9% of the population of Belize, and the Mennonite, which are the German, they make 3.6% of the population of Belize, and the Chinese make 1% of the population of Belize, and the rest make, I think, 1.5% of the population of Belize. The rest are the Africans who went there after the independence, the Jewish, the Arabs, also, and the European also live in Belize. Tourism plays a vital role in the earning of the country. Beautiful keys. Everywhere you turn, there's a beach, a beautiful sand, crystal water, and San Pedro is the most attractive place for the tourist. Now, Belize and diabetes mellitus. Belize is badly affected. As I said, within the Central American region is the worst one. Within the Caribbean is the worst one. In the whole Western hemisphere from Canada to the bottom in Argentina, Belize is the one with the highest prevalence of diabetes in its population. The highest prevalence means the percentage of people suffering from diabetes is the highest in the continent of America. The World Health Organization reports that it is 17.10% of Belizeans that are living with diabetes mellitus. But this way of reporting diabetes, it's inaccurate, it is misleading, it is outdated, it has expired from 1931. It is a very, very old definition that says that the elevation of sugar or glucose in the blood is diabetes. It was first used by Hesi Ra, an African from the continent of Africa in Egypt, in 1552 BC, right? He observed this, that in the urine of some patient that he had, that urine attracted ants. And then in those days, they had people who tested the urine by their mouth. And when that urine was tested, it was found to be sweet. Then they called those people diabetic, right? So diabetes from that time became too much sugar in the urine. But what was causing the sugar? Nobody knew, right? Not until in 1931, a physician by the name of Dr. Wilhelm Falter described what really was happening, what was causing the elevation of glucose or sugar in the blood. He said that in 1931, that the sugar elevation in the blood is due to the fact that insulin is not doing its job. We have said it over and over that insulin's job is what? To get the sugar out of the vessels and then put them in the body so that the sugar can be used as a source of energy. But in 1931, insulin was already discovered, a disease that was very fatal, now was being treated by insulin. And insulin was discovered in 1922 or 21. So they didn't pay him that much mind. They went on, and the pharmaceutical company took the insulin, and the doctors started prescribing the insulin. Wow, miracle worker medication by the name of insulin. People ignore the cause of diabetes, and we started treating the symptoms. Insulin resistance is the cause of diabetes. When the insulin resistance is not dealt with, then the sugar in the blood start going up, right? So the best way to deal with diabetes is to treat the insulin resistance. Then the sugar will never go up. And I was giving a lecture in a high school, and the high school students stood up and said, well, Dr. Gombele, but why we don't deal with insulin resistance? I said, well, I don't know. You have to ask the pharmaceutical company and the medical schools why. But today, in every medical school you will go, and you ask a medical student, what is diabetes mellitus type 2 particularly, he will tell you it's insulin resistance, right? But why are we treating the sugar and not dealing with insulin resistance? Because the fact of the matter is that you can have insulin resistance and your sugar is still normal, because it takes years of insulin resistance before the sugar can go up. In fact, the elevation of the sugar is the last stage of the insulin resistance. I'm going just to give you briefly different stages that the body goes through before you can have elevation of the blood sugar. One, insulin resistance, right? The pancreas, the organ that produces insulin, but the body does not allow the insulin to get the trapped sugar in the vessel into the body. Pancreas feels that there is still much insulin in the vessel, send more messages to the brain, feels that there is still more sugar in the vessel. The brain sends more message to the pancreas, more insulin because you still have more sugar in the vessel. You find out that after insulin resistance come hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin. And I had said earlier that too much insulin means too much fat gathering, because insulin is a fat gatherer, right? So you have insulin resistant, you have too much insulin, and you have fat gatherer, that means obesity, and mainly within the abdomen, which is called visceral obesity. And the fourth stage is that the sugar now start going up. We call it borderline. You go to the doctor, say, oh, your sugar is high, but not really high, right? Just eat right and exercise, but they don't tell you what to eat, they don't tell you what to do. And after 5-6 years, lo and behold, you're full-blown diabetic because the sugar is high and the symptom that start coming up, right? So it's also like you're trying to fix a house that is leaking, right? The house is leaking and you put stuff to catch the water. Every time it rains, you put your stuff, you catch the water, and sometimes the stuff overflow with the water. But you're not addressing the leaking, the places in the roof that are leaking. So you find yourself doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a good result. Waste of time. So in 1931, we defined diabetes not as too much sugar in the blood, but as what? As insulin resistance. Right? Now, for each diabetic who has high sugar, high glucose in the blood, you have 3 who have borderline diabetes, right? But remember, no, borderline is a little bit of too much sugar, right? But when we deal with the redefinition, borderline, it is still diabetes, because borderline come what? Insulin resistance, too much insulin, obesity, and the sugar start going up is the stage number 4, and number 5 is full-blown diabetes. Mwana mboka, mbote malambo. Au revoir mon ami. Hasta luego amigo. Monganga, Dokotolo Gombele. Bye bye. God bless.